Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to London Open Mic, Season 5. This is possibly our last season. I'm Stan, and I'm co-hosting with Joan Clayton. We're featuring David Huebert tonight, which a lot of you know. And right after him will be a question and answer period, followed by some exciting announcements. And then we're going to go straight into the open mic. So anybody who wants to read at the open mic, make sure you're signed up. And you have 5 minutes. We don't have a big gong here, but just imagine a virtual gong with many decibels. Yeah, so you can sign up anytime, but we're only going to take a limited number because they close a little earlier than they used to. And during the open mic, we're doing the second launch, a mini launch, you could say, I guess, of Andreas Grip's anthology, Another London, which a lot of us here have a poem in. One of the most beautiful poetry anthologies possible for this little city. And they're at the back table. So anybody who actually has a poem in there and who is willing to read it during the open mic section, read your poem or poems. We'll have an intermission at 8 and then carry on, and there's all those books at the book table you can browse through. This is a pay what you can event. There's a jar at the back, and anybody who puts money in it, they get a raffle ticket, and right after the intermission, we'll pick the raffle prizes. They're books by the Ontario Poetry Society, donated by them. All right, Andy Verboom will introduce our featured poet. Andy is the organizer of the very popular Couplets, a collaborative poetry reading series. Number 5 was just yesterday, which is now being held in the wonderful loft of the old Novak store on King Street. Most perfect setting for a reading series like that. And Andy Verboom himself will be our featured poet on March 1st. So, Andy Verboom.
Thanks, Sam. Dave was actually one of the 2 poets who featured for the first couplets back in, when was that? May? Sometime at the beginning of the summer. It seems so long ago. And Couplets is an offshoot of London Open Mic Poetry Night. So it's kind of weaving back in on itself for Dave featuring here tonight. Originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Dave is the author of the 2015 poetry collection, We Are No Longer the Smart Kids in Class, for which he has been acclaimed with, I think, singular accuracy as a pornographer of the heart. His poetry has recently appeared in journals such as Event, Contemporary Verse 2, Grain, Matrix, and the Antigonish Review. His poetry, actually his first book of short stories, is called Peninsula Sinking, and it will be published by the venerable Biblioasis Press next year. Dave's most recent poetry chapbook, Full Mondegreens, which was co-authored with me. It feels a little incestuous. Co-authored with me, though. Recently won the Frog Hollow chapbook contest, and his found/erasure/mashup poem Colloquium was just shortlisted for the 2016 Walrus Poetry Prize. The shortlist just came out yesterday. And there's a Reader's Choice Award too, so all 5 poems on the shortlist are currently up on the Walrus site. If you're impressed with David's reading tonight, and you want to maybe check out his poem shortlisted for that prize and maybe vote for him, apparently you can vote once per day per device. So if you're really impressed with his reading tonight, you could vote for him hundreds of times before the competition closes. I don't think is it against the rules?
No.
Everyone else is doing it. Vote. The number of times you vote should equal how impressed you are with his reading tonight. So maybe just vote once if you're kind of like, nah. No? Okay, I'll stop. Dave's writing is, I think, very unflinching. It's challenging. It's provocative. It's both formally subtle and technically accomplished. Dave's also definitely one of the most committed writers I know. He treats it as a job. In all of the genres he writes in, academically, when he writes prose fiction, when he writes poetry, his work ethic when it comes to being a writer is something to aspire to. And so I think he has truly earned and is truly earning the mantle of writer. And I think you will really enjoy what he shares with us this evening. So Dave?
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Stan. Thanks, Joan. Thanks, London Poetry Open Mic Night for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have here the proofs for that chapbook that Andy mentioned, Full Mondegreens. And I'm not going to read from them because Andy and I will be doing that once the actual book comes out. It's going to be exciting. Andy and I co-authored this project. And Andy used the word incestuous just now.
How do you spell that?
Incestuous?
Just kidding.
Are we going to do a spelling bee?
Just kidding.
I've been known to do spelling bees at my readings. I think it has a zest in it. One of the notes, I'm just going to share a word from one of the notes in the notes section. This was what I read the notes to my partner Natasha, and she said, "What the hell is that word?" The word is fractalincestuous, which we used to describe the formal project that we're undertaking. So I don't think incestuous is necessarily a pejorative word in Andy's vocabulary here. So I'm going to do about 20 minutes. I'm going to do some stuff from the book, which I hope will be new to some people. There are books for sale, I feel obligated to say. And then I'm going to do a few more new things. So, I'm going to start with a poem that Kevin Heslop asked me about in the interview. I was a little sad to see that Kevin's not here.
No.
Kevin, are you here?
It's his father's birthday.
Father's
yeah.
birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. Tragic. Anyway, I was very, very happy to have that correspondence with Kevin. I don't know if anyone's checked it out on the website, but I found it very moving, and I was very grateful for the probity and depth of his questions. And one of the first questions he asked was about a poem called Fingernail Clippings, and this one was one that I wrote in Victoria, and it was kind of written in as I was drifting in and out of dream, and there was a small inchworm dangling from the reading lamp that I found just kind of fascinating. It's called Fingernail Clippings. An insect becomes a wish, and ladybugs away. My reading lamp sheds light on an inchworm. In the alms of dawn it glows and squirms, and in the evening it careens in centimetric sway. As fragile strawberries furnish dreams, with mold-soaked arteries, stigmas of decay. A lawnmower spins and chokes on a stump of finger. When we eat egg whites, what happens to the yolks? I carry a briefcase full of peanut butter and put all my important documents in there. I used to think what I wanted to think, but then I cut my hair. So that's thanks a lot. The next one I'm going to do is what is the next one I'm going to do? That's a good question. I'll do one that's one of my earliest, deepest poetic influences was Rilke, and this one's one that I wrote in response to Rilke's Sonnets to Orpheus. It's called Hearing Rilke's Sonnets to Orpheus. Silence and ears, flowers and tongues, the drone of muteness. This odd, sad song is steeped in it. Let us listen to what the song drowns out. Let us, like good Heideggerians, tape our mouths and cultivate the ring of stillness. While we're at it, let us hear these words as gerunds, not nouns, beginning, ending, opening, and preserve the process. Catch it in a stutter. Now pull off the tape, sing again. Sing the toneless, odd volume song of the deaf, and rejoice. Revel in discord, this grotesque limp of a tongue. Did I bring my water? I heard a very wise poet once say that people love it when poets drink water. I think it's true. I want some water. No, I'm good. Actually, I should be fine. The next one I'm going to do is I've been thinking a lot about Halifax. I'm flying to Halifax tomorrow. Am I flying to Halifax tomorrow? Yeah. I'm going to do a week in Halifax, where I'm from. And so I think a lot of the stuff that I prepared was consciously or not directed towards the Atlantic Ocean, which I'm looking forward to seeing tomorrow. My old friend. This one's about Louisburg. It's called Ruins Walk, Louisburg. Thanks. Ruins Walk, Louisburg. We share an apple on the point. I carve Swiss Army slices while angry waves gnaw the shore. Wedges pinched between thumb and blade. She munches idly, towing spiders in the sand. The breeze holds all the rage of the Atlantic. Traces of gunpowder flare my history-tickled nostrils. Beside us, children in period dress chase geese. Above is a sky that has forgotten how to laugh. And I'm going to do another one. This one's about Point Pleasant Park. It's called Equine Tide, Sailor's Memorial Walk. It's about looking out at the ocean in Point Pleasant Park. 1,000 angry horses foaming at the mouth. Behind them, a haven. A stretching disk where gray Atlantic sea meets gray Atlantic sky. Elysium. The beasts reject this refuge, choosing instead to face the obstinate rocks. One by one, spines twist, snap, and recoil. Water, as always, turning back on itself. Thanks a lot. So the last one I'll do from the book is called The Smart Kids. And this is the title poem of the book, obviously. And so have you guys heard this preamble before? Should I give the preamble?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll give the preamble. So I was, is that a yes, you've heard it before, or yes, I should give it?
Yes.
Tom. Yeah. So I was at University of Victoria when this poem germinated, I guess, not when I actually wrote it. And I used to smoke cigarettes, and I used to stand there on the porch of my building, my small building in Victoria, very beautiful, and look out at the very, very spectacular view of a gigantic Esso or Shell gas station. It says in the poem. A gas station, anyway. And so this was my predominant activity. It was going out. My predominant exposure to the outside was going out there, smoking cigarettes, and looking at a gas station, which I found to be notable. And but then what would happen was, because it's Victoria, this deer would walk out and start kind of nibbling the crabgrass at the edge of the gas station, which I thought was just kind of a lovely thing to see in the middle of the night, staring at a gas station. But the poem's really more about grad school, and all this is circling around that. Yeah. It's called The Smart Kids. The Yates Street shell is the center of my universe. It breathes Lego red and mustard yellow into the windows of my capital G green neighborhood. At night, the stars and the moon hide behind this Nickelodeon miasma as I bathe in the hemp soap serenity of British Columbian evenings. Late night walks with like-minded companions, a bearded Marxist and a well-traveled farm girl, unearth the agony of our graduate seminars. We are no longer the smart kids in class. Down the street, there's a cedar that was once the center of this universe. Now its leaves breathe gas station gleam, while unhomed deer gnaw its weary husk. I don't notice, and if I did, I wouldn't care. When I round the corner past this tree and glimpse the red beacon that never strays too far from $1.26, I know I'm home. So I abide the fungus of unease as I slide beneath the sheets and watch the lazy mating dance of phosphorescence and glass, forgetting to wonder who, if anyone, is at fault. How's my hair?
Good.
Is it okay?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good hair?
I just love it when you drink water.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah. How's the water? Is it? It's really doing it. Yeah. Next time. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to move on from the book. I'm going to actually transition with this bad boy, I think. We're going to be reading from the Harmonia Press, another London anthology, which I'm very grateful to Andreas Grip for making and for including me, and also, of course, Carrie Lee Connell. Yeah, thanks for your work on this, guys. So I'm going to read my poem from it. It's called Great, Queens and Richmond. You guys seen the steam rising up from the grates in London? Anyone familiar with this site? Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. It's bizarre. Yeah, it's great. I wrote a poem about it. Face a Christmas of marquee light. You stood on transplant streets, watched grated steam, rising eerie, rising slow. Followed that shudder-still tornado and dreamt a secret city in the depths. Engines boring and you diving weightless, diving low through granite chasms, through vapor wastelands. You saw stalagmites weeping, saw black tears oozing wearily below. A child among the drilling minions raised a hand, one finger, one thumb, 3 stumps churning the underglow. The child became a man, holding out that hand for change, and you went slack, dreamsick, heard yourself muttering no. You walked away thumbing change. What change could sack a secret city, turn fingers into lizard tails, help coral labyrinths grow? Like stitches melting into wounds, you saw the bridges and the dams dissolve, watched concrete wilt, rode the river's rage and flow.
Wow.
Thank you. I'm gonna do. Got a lot of material here. I don't think I'm gonna get through it all. I'm definitely not. Don't worry. I'm gonna go exactly 20 minutes. It's gonna be perfect. Nat and I just took our cat to the vet. It has fleas, so we had to take it to the vet to get it weighed for the flea medication. Turns out our cat is quite large, but that's another story. This is not a poem about that. This is a poem about our closet, the closet that Natasha and I share in our apartment, and the way that space serves as a domestic nexus for us and our cat's involvement in that nexus. It's called Closeted. Your closet is the same size as mine, which neither of us thinks is fair. The cat reposes in yours, shed fur turning that black backpack into a hairy critter, knapsackle sloth. Mine holds hockey skates, drying from last night's shinny. You don't like the smell. But this isn't about my feet. It's about your closet, our cat. What I'm trying to say is something about the feel of your kimono, how it only excites me when your skin's underneath. The strings of your dresses dangle, little girl legs on buses, and the cat swats. No doubt I'm projecting. The right word must start with anthropo. But I insist she pause those dangly bits because she misses you. What I'm trying to say has something to do with the way your closet looks the same when you're not here. How that's scary and comforting. How I went in there for the first time and just sniffed, conjuring the chimp in me to smell the bonobo in you. How maybe that was weird, but at least I didn't try on your clothes. Or did I? Would you mind?
Woo! Woo!
So some of the newer stuff that I've been working on has a lot to do with animals. And I guess I'm going to read one of the other ones from the interview. It's called Wild in Me. And this was, Kevin and I had a nice little back and forth about this poem. So, yeah, it was written when I was reading about this concept they had in the 19th century of what they called racial memory, which was a deep memory of the evolutionary ancestral past, that it was believed that people were brought into the world remembering, I guess on an unconscious level, the kind of primal stirrings of human civilization. Something along those lines. Obviously completely crazy. But yeah, I wrote this poem. It's called Wild in Me. How to recall this wild in me. My toes have forgotten how to grasp. Now pallid feet push pedals, deaf, to strut of songs from time before. My toes have forgotten how to grasp. This mouthy mind won't let me hear the strut of songs from time before, when handsteps whispered, soft as rain. This mouthy mind won't let me hear the time before this motor roar, when handsteps whispered soft as rain, each murmur hummed and purred in me. The time before this motor roar, each blade of grass a lilting tongue, each murmur hummed and purred in me, each color peeled, and death was young. Each blade of grass a lilting tongue, teeth wandering from bite to song. Each color peeled, and death was young, and life was heaving, mending, gone. Now pallid feet push pedals, deaf, and charging through explosive truth. There's no such time as time before, but I recall this wild, this me.
Wow. David, your hair looks really good. And I think he is a very brilliant and brave poet. Thank you very much. So do we have any questions? Questions for David tonight? Come on, guys. Any questions? Yes. Okay, Alan.
So when you're writing a poem and it's just not coming together, what helps you decide whether or not to muscle through and just try to finish the poem, or when it should just be given up on, when it should just cut your losses?
I'm not very good at that. I tend to just power through and try to write it, and then I'll just... It takes me a long time to let something go, and eventually I do. It's usually like I go back to things like a year later, and I look at it and I'm just like, this is not worth it. So yeah, I guess time and distance. You write and you get it as far as you can take it, and then you leave it, and then you walk away from it, turn to something else, a different project, and then go back to it. And oftentimes when you go back to it with that distance, it's a lot easier to see when something's an a priori failure or not worth the effort.
David, yeah, another question.
I'm wondering if you feel you have any sort of collision or conflict between writing poetry and fiction, or do you feel they work more or less symbiotically as a hand in glove, or do you feel sometimes you should be doing more or less of the other?
Yeah, I'm not really writing poetry right now, actually. I have to admit, sadly. Because when I focus on fiction, I basically focus on fiction full time. And then when I focus on, and poetry can emerge much more randomly. The poems that I've written in the last while have often emerged while I'm writing my dissertation. And then a lot of it comes out of my dissertation research also. And then I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm doing something productive right now. I'm not sure I'm fully answering your question. I think that I wouldn't be able to. I've tried, and I think I need to write both poetry and fiction. And sometimes ideas emerge in one, and then I realize it's not meant for that vessel, and that this is actually an idea. This is not going to be a poem, and this is actually something that I should include in a short story or something like that. But I kind of need both as outlets. Yeah. So
I think of people like Atwood, D.H. Lawrence, and others who had this kind of conflict, but eventually they settled down.
Yeah.
Became largely fiction writers.
Yeah.
And the poetry was in the early stages of their development.
Yeah.
As writers, when they were more spontaneous and improvisational.
Yeah, I've seen that pattern a lot too, and I have dreamt that would happen to me. And maybe it will. Maybe it wouldn't surprise me if that did happen to me, but also it seems that the poetry has been persisting and been persistent.
Well, you young fellows will find out.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know. Yeah. Yes.
Your poem on the primitive quality in an individual, as you said, perhaps unconscious.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced a chance at feeling that primal flight or fright situation, or any other kind of situation where, because of your depth of thinking about it, you were able to process it into something positive, or maybe not be able to process it into something positive?
Yeah. That's a tricky question, and I wouldn't want to misrepresent what I was really trying to do in the poem either. But I think there's times when we feel ourselves fully embodied, and those were the kind of times that I was trying to conjure in the poem. And those are times that I really, really enjoy. And I don't know if depth of reflection allows me to edify the experience in some way, but I would say that I have tried to conjure that experience of living as a body and feeling yourself fully immersed in the world of the physical world. Yeah, I've tried to conjure that in writing before. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Or?
I understand that part
Yeah.
of it. And then,
Yeah.
and what about the personal experience? Say there was a
Yeah.
fight or fright, or somebody confronted you, and you had this.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Everything happened to you.
Yeah,
normally,
you
but-
just want me to share that story, or
It-
it's happened to me. Yeah,
And
and
you
I
were able to work through it.
yeah, it's interesting that you asked that. Yes, I have had that experience where I was lost on a mountain, and it was heavy. And then I wrote about it later, and not sure how successful that was for me, but I feel it helped. Yeah, is that what you're asking? Or?
Yeah, so you didn't kill anybody, is what you're saying.
No, I almost killed myself, I guess, but by accident. Yeah, this is getting deep, and I'm feeling very emotional. Yeah, it's hard to talk about. Christine, you're gonna switch gears for me?
Totally.
Yeah.
I want to know how you see your writing poetry change over time. Quite a few of the poems in We're No Longer the Sparkhead come from much earlier days
Yeah.
in grad school.
Mm.
And they sound rather different to me than the later work that you read tonight. I want to know how you feel about it. Do you see it as a progression? Are you happier with what you're writing now?
Definitely, I encourage everyone to buy the book.
I
It's a great book.
I didn't set you up.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah, I feel that it's.
I think so.
I feel that writing has all. Yeah, that I feel that I'm making progress, and that makes me happy fundamentally, and I have gotten to a point where I'm definitely still proud of the book, and I'm still proud of the stuff that I wrote. It's easy to be excited about the stuff you're writing most recently,
It is.
I think, and so that's another. That's a lure as well, I think, and there's a lot of the older stuff that's kind of like really been around and that you're still proud of. And, if you still like playing that song that you wrote in 1973, that has its own kind of distinct pleasure. But yeah, I do think I'm making progress, and I'm always trying to go in new directions in my poetry, and I feel good about the stuff that I'm doing now. Yeah. Does that answer you, or Andy, my partner in rhyme?
What are your
Andy's so impressed. He's not impressed by that. Yeah.
what are your personal ethics surrounding the use of the second person when you're not addressing someone specific, but when you're, I don't want to say projecting because that's already sort of reading it, but when, especially in the Appaloosa poem where you're using you, what's the ethics surrounding that for you?
Ethics. What do you have in mind, Andy?
Like, what ethical considerations come into play when you're deciding whether or not to say use the third person or use the second person or use the first person?
Yeah, right. Hadn't thought about that much, Andy. I think it's. I think that using the second person "you" rather than using the "I" allows me to cultivate distance between myself and the subject of the poem, but keeps it more personal somehow than using the third person. Does that make sense? Yeah. I don't have a fully developed ethical system to describe this, but yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think it mostly it helps me to disorient my own experience, to dissociate my own experience from the whatever I'm trying to conjure. Yeah.
Alan has another question. Alan?
So this comment was brought up a couple times already, so I have to ask, what conditioner do you use?
What's that?
What conditioner do you use?
Nat? That's Nat's department. We use this conditioner that has no animal products in it. It's
Only
great.
a hairdresser knows for sure.
I get this all the time. Like, yeah, people are like razzing me about how much I shower and stuff like that. I really just try not to waste that much. And, yeah, try to use the vegan conditioner. That's what we use now. Yeah. I don't know the brand name. Is that weird? Should I not have taken that question seriously?
So you're writing your dissertation right now?
Yeah.
What's the topic?
It's about human-animal love in American literature, from Jack London to more contemporary poets.
And what's your thesis, or what's your main?
Yeah, my argument, you mean?
Yeah.
It's basically that, so after Darwin, there was this massive challenge to the idea of human supremacy and human exceptionalism. And my dissertation looks at the way that that idea of human exceptionalism and human supremacy was eroded, and also the way in which people responded with enormous amount of panic to the threat, to the idea that the human was A, autonomous, and B, better than all other species. And so I'm looking at an idea of panic and how that panic manifests in literature through erotic encounters.
Erotic.
Yeah.
Between animals and people.
Yeah. Using a very broad definition of eros.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't read a poem. I have another poem that's more specifically rooted in that kind
Could you
of.
read it? Could you read it tonight? Come on. Yes. Come on. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Okay.
Somebody chant encore.
Well, no, we're just pulling a few things together. First of all, what Andy said, one of the things I really believe as an artist, I believe in discipline. And so Andy said that you have amazing discipline, so I'm listening to all the things you brought together. You have a first-rate imagination, you're really wonderful at research, and so we want to hear how you're pulling these various things together. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another part of an answer to an earlier question is that there's definitely a direct symbiosis between my academic research and my creative writing, both in my fiction and my poetry, actually. So this one's called Granger. Yeah. So I don't really know. I've never read this one in public, I have to admit, and don't quite know how to preamble it, other than to tell the story. There's this guy, William Bradford. You might know the name. He wrote *A Plymouth Plantation*. He was one of the first settlers in the New England colonies, and he wrote this thing called *A Plymouth Plantation*, which was a long history that lasted, I think, the first 30 years that the plantation was there, and it's a fascinating text. And in it, there's this man named Thomas Granger, a young man who is caught having sex with livestock. Fun fact, actually, bestiality right now is legal in Canada. Don't know how many. This is a subject of interest for me. As long as it's non-penetrative, which raises interesting questions about what we think of as sexuality. And actually, the court case, this was a 2015 court case, cited the association of sodomy and bestiality as a kind of legitimate evidence for why it should only be penetrative sex that counts as illegal. Anyway, there's this old injunction against what we call bestiality, or what people that practice it call zoophilia. And it goes back to Leviticus. And in Leviticus, it says, "And if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast." And then here's a quotation from William Bradford. "There was a youth whose name was Thomas Granger, this year detected of buggery, and indicted for the same, with a mare, a cow, 2 goats, 5 sheep, 2 calves, and a turkey." So they're really keeping tabs also. "Horrible it is to mention, but the truth of the history requires it." That's what William Bradford said about the matter. Okay, so here's the poem, Granger. "You did not name the animals. They did not blame the animals. It was you who with your sallow root had all but slain the animals. Your lowered pants in winter chill, they found it strange, the animals. Steaming flesh, slithering pink, were they in pain, the animals? Your moon-white hams, your canned yips, braid refrain of animals. The shudder of your loins in them, those spurts that changed the animals. Not thief, perhaps, but borrower, your need was drained in animals. What inklings gnawed your mind that night? Were they deranged, the animals? The sheep gave birth to biped lambs. They burned with shame, the animals. Human smiles in clouds of wool, they ascertained, the animals. The elders from the pillory, this man has maimed the animals. You hung to let the others dream, their tables lain with animals.
That's very powerful, and I really appreciate the research that you do, and the willingness to look at how we're connected in, some very profound ways. Oh my God, thank you, David, thank you.